Hi guys and ladies, welcome back to another episode. My name is Lisema Matsietsi. On this episode, we are talking about a different type of company. We're talking about state-owned enterprises or state-owned companies. What is a SOC? Let's talk about it. Let's look at all the different aspects of what can happen with the SOC. Can I open up a state-owned enterprise? Maybe I could, maybe I could not. Stay tuned for the rest of the video. Okay, just before we start off, don't you stress. We're going to be covering what is a state-owned company, looking at different type of things, looking at different types of at categories, from starting from the definition, the incorporation, registration, financial year, changes in financial year, and also keeping company records and who is the regulatory body. Before we go any further, let me just start by talking about this little disclaimer right here, that this video is made for general information only and does not constitute legal advice. It is advised that you should seek your own legal or professional advice on any concerns that you have in this video. Before you go on, please verify with your legal friends to say, is this what it is? What I'm just giving you here is what I found out using my own analyst skills. Let's go. With the first thing is the definition. What is a definition of a state-owned entity? It's a company that is owned by South African government and listed in Public Finance Management Act, or owned by a municipality and is of a similar kind to the government-owned company. So this company could be owned by the government itself, or it could be owned by a municipality itself. Public Finance Management Act, PFMA, will determine what type of companies could be owned by the state, what type of companies could not be owned by the state. It's all under the Public Finance Management Act, which companies could be owned by the state and which should not be owned by the state. And yes, as a municipality, you can also own your own company. For instance, if you don't want the municipality to be meddling with cutting of the grass or removal of sewage, you are more than welcome to register your own state-owned company owned by the municipality that will be responsible for picking up the rubbish and doing all of those things. Probably to help yourself, that if you don't want the municipality workers, when they go on strike, you don't want the cutting of the grass or the removal of the sewages or all of those to be impacted because it's managed by a different company or a different state-owned entity owned by the municipality type of thing. But if everybody else works for the municipality, when they go on strike, they all go at the same time. So that's what more or less what the definition is trying to tell us here. If we go over who can incorporate this company, so it may be incorporated by one or more persons or an organ of state. Like we said here, it could be either the state itself, head office in Pretoria, Cape Town, or wherever the state offices are, or it could be done by the municipality itself that says, oh, we want to create a company that will solve our issues in whatever way that we see it fit. The next one is what happens when you go and look at registration. Number 3 is you need to fill and complete the following. The first one is the notice of incorporation, or the COR 14.1. Second one is a memorandum of incorporation, or MOI. If you don't have your own, probably they would have their own because it's the municipality or it's the state. They would want to create their own memorandum of incorporation. But if they don't, they can use the COR 15.1 to incorporate the state-owned entity. The fourth thing that we're looking at is the place of business. Where can they operate? Can they operate in Mauritius but registered in South Africa? But it looks like in this case, they have to have a registered address or office within the South African Republic of South Africa. So they can't just, open up the municipality is opening up a company, but they are nowhere to be found. The company does not have offices anywhere. It has to have offices. Annual returns, number 5. When can they be done? Annual returns, like any other company, should be filed within 30 business days after the anniversary of incorporation. So 30 days after a year has gone past, if we incorporate today, 30 days from today, we want to know what's happened, and you must actually go back and tell what has happened. Number 6 is the annual financial statements. Financial statement must be prepared within 6 months of financial year end and must comply with the Public Finance Management Act. This is where the difference is. You just don't create your own financial statements that looks like because your friend who is an accountant created this amazing finances for you, but they have to comply with this thing called the Public Finance Management Act. You can't just run away from the Finance Management Act because you're a state-owned company. You are required to do as per the Public Finance Management Act. Number 7 is the financial year. The financial year can be picked to anything, but it has to be fixed. So if it's a 12-month financial year, it remains 12-month financial year like any other company. The changes to a financial year are allowed like in any other company, but in order to do that, you must, company may change the financial year by filling in a form called the COR 25 with the CIPC, which must comply with the requirement set. Looking at auditing, is auditing compulsory? Because this is a state-owned company. Probably we're thinking, who will be auditing? Yes, auditing is required. And the issue here is, who will you be auditing? Is Auditor General going to be in place? Because we know in the Public Finance Management Act, Auditor General is responsible for everything else that is owned by the state. In this case, then you can ask yourself, will Auditor General be there, or can any other auditing firm get the opportunity to be a service provider when it comes to auditing? That's maybe a question for another day. Is the company secretary required? Because this is a company that is owned by the state. Yes, the secretary is required. You must appoint a company secretary. A secretary is not a receptionist, like I said earlier. It is somebody else who's responsible for making sure that things are done properly when it comes to communicating with everybody else. Is the AGM required? The AGM is not required, but if it's included in the memorandum of incorporation, then the annual general meeting will be required. Maybe you might want to include it if you are having one or two, more than two municipalities that are coming together. So, for instance, this entity that will be cutting crosses might be cutting crosses in neighboring municipalities. Then they can say, let's create an annual general meeting so that we can understand how this company finances are performing compared to the rest of us. Probably might be a good idea. But in terms of that, all of that, you have to put it into your memorandum of incorporation so that you know what you are dealing with. Minimum number of directors. There's no minimum number of directors, but the Public Finance Management Act will tell you, and the legislation will tell you what is required in that company. So if they require that the mayor who should be sitting in that company, or whoever should be the director, this should be the chairman, whatever they require, you have to go to the legislation. Remember, this is a state-owned company. So the legislation is the one that has to take precedence when it comes to telling you what to do in this company, type of thing. The minimum number of members that are required, only one member could be there. And remember, when we say one member, both a natural person, which is like me, blood, sweat, and tears, can register, and also a judicial person, which is like an entity, could also become a member, meaning that a municipality can own a state-owned company, which is a cold body, can become a member, not just a warm body all the time. Looking at the offering of securities to the public, you just guessed it. Can you offer securities to the public? I was also shook a little bit when I realized that Chapter 4 of the Companies Act. So the Chapter 4, we will go according to Chapter 4, but where there is some conflict with other legislation, the legislation will override. But chapter 4 is the one that's quite needed. And you remember, chapter 4 is the one that actually talks about company offering of company securities. And I think this will be chapter 4 will come in handy if I go back to that mowing of grass and upkeep company, to say which municipality owns what bigger portion, which one should take whatever the type of a thing. Keeping of company records, yes, it is required that you keep all the company records. You can't just say we incorporated the company and then after that, because it's owned by the municipality, we as the municipality don't wish to keep any records. According to the thing, you are required to keep the records, whether you like it or you're not. Anytime when we come through, we need to find out if you once hired me and we come 10 years later, we like, was Lisema part of your employee? You can't say, oops, it was a long time ago. You still have to come back and say, yes, he was or he was not. Number 16 is, what is your regulatory body? Your regulatory body will be the CIPC, which is the Commission for Intellectual Property and Companies, will be the one that is responsible for telling you what to do and what not to do. You can't just do your own thing. This will be your determining, regulatory body. Just what you're seeing on screen now is just the overview summary of what we've spoken about. If you like what we went through, feel free to take a snapshot of this, share it with your friends. It might be people that wants to register a company, people that wants to understand more about companies, or people who got assignments and they just need somebody, some video that just explain. Please feel free to share this with them, to say, did you know that you can register your own state-owned company? As long as the legislation allows you, you can register it and it could be yours, but the state gets the whole benefit. And if you like this video, feel free to give it thumbs up, comment down below, or feel free to stay tuned for the next video.